Welcome to KURE Sports on ISUtv. I'm Taylor Mankle here with Zach Williamson and Michael Murrell for another episode, Season 2, Episode 6, November 1st. We've reached all the way to November, and that's exciting because we still have baseball, and it's November. That's what we're going to start talking about here, MLB, to start off the show. And, of course, we got to talk some World Series here, guys.
For sure.
It's huge. It's been entertaining. It's been terrifying. I'm going to try to keep my opinion out of this as a Cubs fan and let you guys do most of the talking here. We got a Cardinals fan and a Royals fan, so keep it Midwest, but keep it non-Cubs. You'll probably all enjoy it. So let's talk about the series thus far. Obviously, you got the Cubs, and you have Cleveland in this one. What has stuck out? Give me something from each squad that's stuck out thus far for you. We'll start off with you, Zach.
Obviously, the Indians' pitching, I say, is what's stuck out so far. I mean, Kluber's been unreal in both of his starts. Even Tomlin had a good start. They pulled him after 4 2/3, but didn't give up a run. Really, I think that's what he's going to have to do tonight as well. And Miller and Allen, both in the bullpen, have just been sensational. I mean, if they get it to them near the end of the game, you got to like their chances.
For sure. What's something that stand out for you, Murrell?
I've really thought both bullpens have been amazing so far in this series on both sides. I mean, you look at Chapman in game 5 last night, 2 2/3. I mean, it's just insane a closer to have an 8-out save like that, especially with all of the ridicule he had with the struggle he had with 6-out saves in NLCS. And he was just he was pitching great, and it's been really fun to watch this total bullpen series because, as you mentioned, Tomlin pitched great in Game 3, but he got pulled out 4 2/3 because it was just because he gave up one base runner, and it's like, I'm just going to go to Andrew Miller and let him eat up 2 innings. So.
You guys both mentioned the pitching of Cleveland. So, with that being said, do you point most of the blame for the Cubs' lack of offense? Do you give that credit to Cleveland, or do you take any away from Chicago, or is it a little bit of both? We'll start with you, Michael.
I think you just got to give all the credit to Cleveland. Okay. I mean, it's not just one series. I mean, you saw him do it against the Red Sox. You saw him do it against the Blue Jays, arguably the 2 best offenses in the AL. And, it's not something that's new. Every offense is struggling against Cleveland, in these playoffs. So, in these playoffs. So, obviously there's some things that, you look at Jason Hayward, who hasn't hit good all playoffs, and, there's some things like that. But for the most part, this is a Cubs team that was hitting really good towards the end of that NLCS. They were really firing on all cylinders by the end of that NLCS. And this is just a Cleveland pitching staff that's really shut them down, and you just got to give them credit.
Yeah, and I think that really says a lot about Terry Francona going into this postseason, because they weren't all this dominant all this season. They had some really good points this season, Cleveland did, in the pitching staff and in the bullpen, especially after that trade deadline. But I think that this really speaks to a playoff manager that Terry Francona is, and he's done a fantastic job of it this postseason. What are your thoughts? Do you give more credit to the pitching staff, maybe even some to the management, or do you give it to a little backlash on the Cubs' offense just not producing in the playoffs?
I definitely give credit to the pitching staff. Like you said, they've just pitched well all postseason.
Yeah.
And the fact that they've done that without Carrasco, without Salazar, just shows really, like you said, like what Francona's done with the bullpen and with the starting pitchers and whatnot. But also, I think in this series, you've kind of seen Russell and Baez be a little more impatient at the plate.
Oh, for sure.
I think the Cubs need to work counts, especially tonight. I mean, when they work counts, that's when they're going to get the best at-bats, get more base runners on.
No, I totally agree, especially with Baez. You see, and the commentators have been just saying it flat out, and they're absolutely right. If you get a first pitch strike on Baez, you're striking him out because he's gonna swing at anything, no matter how far out of the plate it is. So that's something that I agree with you. I think the Cubs definitely need base runners to win this series and even this game tonight. So let's look at tonight's game. Obviously, you've got Arrieta, Tomlinson here, a big matchup. Who do you give right now the advantage here in this one?
I give a slight advantage to Chicago solely because of the fact that I think these are very evenly matched teams, and Chicago has their backs against the wall, and teams just tend to play better with their backs against the wall.
Historically, Chicago has not been one of those teams.
That's true historically, but also historically in the World Series, teams that are down 3-2 do tend to play better in Game 6 than the teams that are up.
For sure.
And so I think Arrieta pitched very good earlier in this series. Arrieta did. I think he had no hitter through five.
For 5 and third.
And so I think I did give a slight advantage to the Cubs. I did think Josh Tomlin would pitch very well in Game 3.
Oh, absolutely.
But I'm going to give a slight advantage to the Cubs. I do, however, think Cleveland has a slight advantage tomorrow in game, if this goes 7.
If it goes 7.
Yeah.
Who do you think has the advantage tonight, Zach?
I like Tomlin in Cleveland just because Tomlin, like they already did in his Game 3 start, is he just really has to get about 5 innings of solid ball. He's not flashy, but he throws strikes. He hits his spots. Once they get it to Miller and Allen in the back, I think they have a really good shot. But really, I think whoever scores early and has the lead going into the back half of the game is going to have the advantage.
For sure. How much of an advantage does Chicago get with this going back to Cleveland? Obviously, you get Schwarber back in that lineup at the 2 spot tonight. How much of a swing is that going to be on this game and potentially a Game 7?
Yeah, it's a huge swing. I mean, Schwarber's had already a great postseason in the 2 games he played in. So, I mean, his bat's definitely going to bring in some runs. You get the feeling every time he comes up to the plate. So, I mean, I think they definitely have a big advantage going back to Cleveland.
Well, at the same time, I think there is some. Cleveland has a little bit of an advantage in the fact that they're getting their DH back in too. So I don't see it being as huge of a difference as what some people might.
What do you think they do with that DH? Do they put Santana back at that DH slot and then fill in that left field, or do you leave him at left field because he hasn't had any problems back there?
Yeah,
far?
I mean, I think you put your best fielder in at left field. You know, even if you think it's been Santana, then put Santana there. But if you think there's a guy that's going to do better, you have to put your best fielder in. I mean, it's playoff baseball, and if over the course of the season Santana hasn't been that, even if he did well in a couple games, one fielding error is enough to cost you a World Series, and that's just the way October baseball works.
All right, let's talk about the MVP of this series thus far. Who do you guys have it as? We'll start with you, Michael.
If it comes down, I think it really comes down to who wins. If it goes to who wins, I'm going to pick Chapman or Andrew Miller. I think those two have been the MVPs. They've just been huge in every game that's been won. It's been one of those two that have just made a huge impact on the game for their team. And so I think it's going to be one of those two relievers because I don't think a hitter has really stood out from the rest of the hitters that's just been incredible to really warrant an MVP, unlike these relievers who have just had an astounding postseason.
Okay, and Zach?
Like you said, I guess it kind of depends on who wins.
For sure.
I think right now Kluber has a good chance of winning it, especially if it goes Game 7
and he
wins that game. I mean, but I like Francisco Lindor. I think he's the heart and soul of the Indians, batting .421 in the World Series. I mean, every time he gets up, it seems like he gets on base. The guy's an animal.
Yeah, if it had to go to somebody offensively, I think you have to go Lindor and KURE. So let's ask the question that everybody's wondering. Does Cleveland end it tonight, or do they force a game or do the Cubs force a Game 7? And if so, who wins in that case? So break down both of those questions. We'll start with you, Zach.
Alrighty. Well, I don't know if you guys remember last time I was on the show, but before the playoffs started, I picked the Indians in 6 over the Cubs. So I'm going to stick with the Indians in 6 over the Cubs. I think they're going to do it tonight.
He's a damn genius over here. Oh, man. Mike?
If I remember right, I don't think I had the Cubs or the Indians in this World Series. But based on what I've seen so far, I think this series goes 7. It's just been such an incredible World Series. You know, it's been very back and forth. I think this series goes 7. And when it goes Game 7, Kluber has really put up one of those legendary type post-Octobers that, you know, we talk about. You think Madison Bumgarner in 2013. You know, you think those types of, or 2014, you think those types of players, and he's putting up that kind of post-October, and I think Kluber will put up like 7 scoreless or something like that in Game 7, and we'll win it for the Cubs, or for the Indians.
He's going to switch teams just real quick. All right, with that being said, both of you guys are going Cleveland on this one. If something is to go Chicago's way, what does that have to be for them to take this series, whether in that Game 7, forcing that Game 7 and then winning that one?
The bats have to, you know, catch fire. I mean, that's been Chicago's, you know, biggest strength all season. It's been the offense, and it hasn't really been here that much for October. You know, they've been shut out several times. The bats have to. If this turns into like a 6-5, you know, 7-6 type game, I give a huge advantage to Chicago. If it's an offensive game, Chicago's definitely in the driver's seat.
Zach, what do the Cubs have to do?
Cubs got to score early, and I think Arrieta's got to go pretty deep tonight. I think 7 innings from him would be huge.
I agree.
They got to try to avoid having Chapman throw more than 1 inning. I mean, if he throws more, then you don't have him for Game 7 really, or you're just testing it. I don't know. I think they need to score early. I think Arrieta needs to go deep into the game. I
agree. All right, so let's jump to some awards. I know you wanted to talk some awards, Michael. Let's jump into it. What do you want to start with?
I think the MVP discussion is always fun.
It is?
It's always a fun one to have.
All right, so who do you have right now as the MVP?
The MVP in the NL, I've said a lot. I've said Daniel Murphy a lot on this show, and I've been watching this postseason, and it's so hard for me to say Daniel Murphy when you get knocked down in the wild card game.
It's very hard.
And especially since what Chris Bryant has done, he had that big home run in
and it makes it even
5,
more hard because you've seen so many times that teams that don't make the playoffs, they have that heart. It's nearly impossible to get the MVP if your team doesn't make the playoffs. You get knocked out in the first round. It's a similar situation. So keep going.
Yeah, I think you have to give it to Chris Bryant. I mean, he put up great numbers. And even with Anthony Rizzo, maybe taking some votes away, I don't think there's going to be enough support coming from the Nationals on Daniel Murphy. So.
Yeah, you going KB as well here, Zach?
Yeah, I'm going Chris Bryant. It seems like whenever he goes, especially in the postseason, the whole lineup starts to go. Like last game, he had the solo shot. They scored 2 more in the inning. That ended up being enough. So I like Chris Bryant. He's just had a fantastic season.
No, I agree. All right, what do you guys think for well, I guess let's go AL first before we jump over to the Cy Young.
Gosh, there's no one in AL that really stood out to me this year. You look at the Indians, and there really wasn't like an MVP type player on that roster.
Not so much.
So I think you just got to go with the best candidate, the guy who put up the best numbers, and that's Jose Altuve to me.
Okay.
So.
What do you think, Zach?
I'd agree with that. I like Altuve a lot. If not Altuve, I could see Donaldson picking up his second straight MVP.
I agree. I think Altuve's got this one, even though it's probably going to be a weird voting system. I'm not sure how those numbers are going to turn out for the AL. But let's jump over to the Cy Young real quick. Give me your Cy Youngs.
For the American League, I think I like Kluber now, whereas before the postseason, maybe not. He's just had such a great stretch in the postseason. He was on the verge of maybe winning it.
For sure.
I think he solidified his spot.
Yeah,
totally agree.
I 100% agree with that. Corey Kluber is having won the postseasons of the ages, and he was already really neck and neck there for that Cy Young. So I think you just got to give it to Corey Kluber. NL. It's so hard for me to give it to Kyle Hendricks because of the strikeout number. So I'm going to go Max Scherzer here, just because he's like I believe Hendricks is like 100 strikeouts behind Max Scherzer. I mean, it's just an astronomical amount of strikeouts to be behind and be in a Cy Young race. I don't think that you can win a Cy Young with that little amount of strikeouts.
Got to have the Ks. All right, Zach?
I'd agree. I think Scherzer's probably going to win it, but I think Hendricks does have a great case. I mean, he's not a strikeout pitcher, but boy, is he good. I mean, when that Game 6 against the Dodgers, he was just unreal.
Cool,
hitting his
calm,
spots,
and collected. That was crazy, for sure.
It's fun to watch, for sure.
All right, that's all we've got time for here on this segment, MLB. First, to kick off the show, we've got football up next with Andreas and I, so stay tuned. You're watching KURE Sports on ISUtv. Welcome back to KURE Sports on ISUtv. Taylor Mankle along with Andreas Haffar here to talk some football. And for those of you who are uncultured out there, we're talking soccer.
That's the one, baby. Yep, we are talking soccer, football everywhere else across the world.
Yep.
But,
We like to be full. We like to be
I
full
like the
cultured here.
well-roundedness
We
of
talk
Canada, yeah.
football on KURE
That's
Sports.
right, we do.
We talk
an excellent topic.
An
and
excellent
way to go
topic
about
and
it.
an
And we're going to
excellent
focus in
way.
on England first.
We are.
We're going to focus on the Premier League.
Oh,
a lot of things
you
are
gotta
going
love
on. We have a
it. You
tie
gotta
for
love it.
third.
Yeah.
A tie up there.
It's exciting stuff up there as a bunch of obviously the top 4 teams played. So I'm going to have you kind of break down some of these matchups. First off, let's talk about the 5th place team before we get into the top 4. Let's talk a little Spurs. What do you talk
So Tottenham Hotspurs are the only undefeated team left in the Premier League. They have not lost, but they have tied quite a bit, hence where they are in 5th place. They had a great 2-0 win against Man City almost a month ago to the day, but since then they've tied 3 BPL games. They've tied elsewhere. They lost to Liverpool in the League Cup, and so this is where my whole, and I think maybe in hindsight I can justify it now, but this is where my questions were raised about Tottenham Hotspur. Where's the depth? How are we going to do? And I think what they need to do is kick it into second gear here. They have the people, the personnel on the field to do such a thing.
Okay.
But, right now, it is still a little bit young, but, in the season, it's, still going in about 9-10 games. But out of 38, it's getting to that point where you're going to need to start making up some ground, build a solid foundation, and
there comes a point where the draw isn't good enough anymore.
You have to win your home games at least, and then draw to stay in the league, and then draw or win to keep moving up. So we'll see about that. But moving on up. Yeah,
let's move on up to some of those interesting teams. I'm going to start with probably the team that you're most invested in.
Ooh, I don't know. Sunderland, okay.
Sunderland, Swansea.
Swansea City.
Swansea City. All right, now, I'm going to talk about pool with you. Liverpool. Let's go.
Well, 4-2 victory over Crystal Palace. Nice 11:30 game that I could easily make. And
Tune in
at 11:30. Sensational play, a lot of goals. It's 4-2. They won. They're starting to. The Liverpool team is starting to resemble the Brendan Rodgers team of 2013, 2014, in that they have sensational play up top. They're robust offensively, but in the defense, there's still questions to be asked. Sometimes they don't pay attention. And a lot of the goals say James McArthur scored 2-headed goals that were that could have been dealt with.
Sure.
And I think he kept smacking his head because he's so surprised that he even got headed goals.
Do you think that improvement needs to happen in goal or the defense surrounding goal?
I think it's a little bit of both. They have Karius, the goalkeeper that they signed over the summer, in, but he's just as shaky as Mignolet, it seems, because that was the problem there. Their old goalkeeper, he's still on the bench, was the lack of confidence, and that actually can play a part. Like if he doesn't work, what are we going to do? And that plays a lot. But now I think it's still a little bit of questions. But maybe need to sync up a little bit. But they're scoring more goals than they're conceding, and that's fine and dandy until you go up against a big team where that's just not going to work.
Yeah,
we saw the 0-0 versus Manchester United. That kind of stuff isn't going to work. They didn't concede, obviously, because the problem maybe is Zlatan is not in form and all that stuff. We can go on about that for days, but I think if they boost up in the defense, they'll be better.
Okay.
And they are tied for third. They're tied for first, but they are third as of goal difference. So. Let's talk about Chelsea. Making waves, baby.
Do it.
I think that's your team.
I don't know. I'm kind of debating between a couple teams. I still haven't chosen my Premier League team.
You will soon.
I'm balancing between some of the top 3 teams right here. I don't want to be a bandwagon squad, so we'll see where it goes.
Join up with Liverpool. Actually, they probably won't take you.
They wouldn't take me. They wouldn't want me.
Well, Chelsea is a good candidate right now. I'll tell you that much. You got Hazard and Costa coming up good. 2-0 victory. They're in a 4-match win streak. But not only that, they have 11 goals scored in 4 BPL matches, and they haven't conceded a goal either. And they weren't against just bottom of the table teams. Hull City maybe aside. You have United and you have Leicester and you have as recent as Southampton, who are still a very good team too. So it's impressive. Chelsea are going. And what a stark contrast to last season when you had Mourinho in there, and you were kind of seeing shades of that, almost the exact same thing. Happy he didn't win the league with them prior, but scary stuff. And then we have Arsenal, also another good team. 4-1 winners away to Sunderland. I don't know why I'd be a Sunderland fan right now. They're the only Premier League team that doesn't have a win yet.
Tough going.
David Moyes, you gotta pick it up, bud. Pick it up. It's rough in that league. But Sanchez scores 2. There's a 22 pass wave attack, and then he scored beautiful stuff. I love that. And then Giroud's back. He scored 2. Finally back in the lineup, the French star. I like this team, and I think Wenger's a good coach, and Alexis Sanchez is an excellent player.
Sure.
But surely they have to have a go this season. Otherwise, the fans are they're gonna ask for Wenger to go. They have been on and off, but I think they have to go for it. This is the team that are fully capable of doing it. Not to say others weren't, but there's no reason to see why not.
Sure.
Not this time around. And then we'll go to.
Let's go Man City.
You want to go to Man City?
You got to go Man City.
They broke a 6-game win streak. About time. They have an Aguero with 2 goals, and this dude's an animal. His second goal was indicative of the raw talent that this guy has. He had a missile into the top corner. He made it all out of his own, all him. And then he scored another one, as obviously prior to that. And then Gundogan scores 2. He's the new signing. So they are keeping up. I believe they are first still as we speak by goal difference. They haven't conceded many, which is good. Let's talk about, one that isn't still in the top.
Yeah.
Manchester United. Now they tied 0-0
Yeah.
to Burnley. I will say that Burnley's goalkeeper, his former youth product of Manchester United, he had a great game. Tom Heaton had an awesome game. He played out of his shoes. I don't even know.
Out of his shoes.
And, the biggest news, and he's in the news again. This is the 3rd time in a row.
Yeah, he just keeps coming up.
Jose Mourinho, the special one, he was slapped with an FA Cup conduct charge prior to the Liverpool game about 2 weeks ago. This is talking about a referee's ability or inability, therefore, to remain impartial during the Liverpool derby that they had, and he got a fine. And now he had a tantrum. It's a tantrum. That's how you have to describe it. About a penalty claim, and he went off on the ref, and he said, "Nope, you got to go to the stands." And so there are a lot of videos out there of him walking up the stands and then telling his assistant, writing down notes, and saying, "Hey, go down there and go tell him what to do. Go tell him what to do." It didn't work, obviously.
No.
It's still, unless he wanted to park the bus.
He wanted to park the bus again.
They did.
Get
The
another
bus
draw.
is
Yeah.
sitting there, which is whatever. But that's how it's gonna go.
More Mourinho in the news. More Mourinho.
One. It's nothing. Not a big surprise. Nothing special about it.
Yeah.
I mean, what are you gonna do? But
All press is good press? No? Yeah, not for Man U.
well, he also
Not
avoided the
for Man
press
U.
right after that game
Yeah.
too. So no press? I don't even. The assistant did the press conference after. He looks like a sad puppy dog. He really
Sad
did. I remember
puppy dog.
I was just saying, oh man, he's like, yeah, we won. No, we didn't win. I don't know. It was sad.
All right, let's talk some Champions League.
Speaking of Man City, they kept it up. This is 2-match win streak, and they exacted revenge against arguably the best team in the world, Barcelona.
Yeah.
3-0 at the Etihad, so at their home stadium this time. Gundogan scores 2 again. He's got 4 and 2. That's amazing. Messi opened the scoring, and then De Bruyne finished him off 3-1. That stopped Barcelona from automatically going into the next round. They still probably will with 2 spots in each group, 4 teams in each group, and the top 2 go on. So
Were you surprised in this result?
no, specifically because they went out hard like they did before, and then they responded really well when Messi scored. But last fixture in the Champions League, they played really hard, and 4-0 wasn't the whole story.
Yeah.
Which was sad because they had some there were some red cards in that game, and they fought really hard. And I had said this on the show before that they still had a fight and determination in them, even 4-0 down. And so I think that helps with the belief in that maybe Pep Guardiola, the coach, said, we're going to have another chance at them. This isn't the end of the world, stuff like that.
Sure.
And they win. They have world-class talent on their team.
Oh, for sure, yeah. It's Man City.
Both sides. And I'm sure at the Etihad, the fans made it very hard for Barcelona to play. And it is somewhat surprising, but not taken aback by it by any means. But we do now know some teams that will go in to the next round.
Yeah.
There are 4 of them so far. There's some that are very close. We have Arsenal. We have PSG, Bayern Munich, and Atletico Madrid. I believe Arsenal won 3-2 away, and then the others won 2-1 scoreline. So what have you,
You got a couple
Just
teams
fate.
in there.
Yeah, fate as it would be. I mean, tomorrow we're going to see Spurs and Leverkusen, and Dortmund, Real Madrid, Leicester, Juventus, and Sevilla. They could secure their positions with wins. Leicester, we've been talking. They've been looking like they're going to do it. This could be your time to... I do like that Leicester team. They're all right. This could be your time to jump. I don't know if they'll win the whole thing.
No.
But
they'll probably make it.
They will probably make it, and maybe get a favorable draw if they get on the top of their group, which is looking very likely. They're 3-0. and they could go 4-0 tomorrow away to Copenhagen. So we're gonna have to find out. We're gonna have to watch. It's about 2:45, I believe, in the PM on our side.
In the PM.
On our side of the country and stuff. So my last thought is on one of the best. He retired today.
Big retirement today, yeah.
German and World Cup top goal scorer Miroslav Klose, 38 years old. He retired today. He was still pretty good even as he was aging. I wouldn't say aged like fine wine, but he aged like decent wine.
Like decent wine.
If you will. It's still pretty good. Drinkable.
Like a better than not boxed wine?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's just been sitting there and dusting. Yeah, better than not. But that's a good way to put it.
Yeah.
He had 16 goals in the World Cup, so that means he's made it to multiple World Cups and scored a lot. He had that record breaker against Brazil and that heartbreaker, if you will, demolition, 7-1 of them in the World Cup. But fantastic career he's led, accolades to show, and hats off to him. And everyone, you can't play forever. We know that. And my other thing, I just remember, Mario Balotelli, is he back? I don't know. It seems like he's revitalized, scoring 6 goals in 5 games, putting the undefeated Nice team in Ligue 1 in France up to the top, over PSG, over Lyon. I'm surprised. This is the guy that wouldn't score a goal if you paid him to score a goal, to save his life. And now he's like, well, maybe I can do it. I don't know, man. Where was that when he played for Liverpool? I don't know. He's still got that.
You're just salty, aren't you?
Kind of.
Yeah,
it's a lot of money spent for a guy. You do that, and then they kind of fall out. Whatever. But that's good. Good for him. Maybe you figure it out later rather than too late.
And we've got one more headline for all you out there.
Oh, boy.
Andreas Haffar turns 25 today, or 38 if you're in my book.
My
This
50-year-old
birthday. So happy birthday to Andreas Haffar.
Thank you, Taylor Mankle. It's been just a regular day.
Just a regular day. Just a good old regular day.
If this is what adulthood is like, take me off the email list or whatever.
I don't
want any part in it.
Unsubscribe. All right.
Unsubscribe, that's right.
We're going to take it to a break, and we will be back with some NBA action right after this on KURE Sports on ISUtv. But before we go, a quick reminder that the views and opinions expressed during this talk show are solely those of the host and other contributors. These views and opinions do not represent those of Iowa State University, KURE, the KURE Board of Directors, or any other contributors and supporters of KURE or ISUtv. You're watching and listening to 88.5 KURE Ames Alternative. Welcome back to 88.5 KURE Ames Alternative and ISUtv. This is KURE Sports on ISUtv. I'm Taylor Mankle, along with now Michael Mainzer and Logan Marada here on the program to talk some NBA, the association, as they call it, as the season is now upon us. Glad to have it back to be able to talk about it. So we're going to jump into things about what has happened thus far. We're going to start with what team has impressed you the most thus far this season. We'll start off with you, Logan.
I probably took Michael's answer here because I know you're a huge Bull fans, but I got to go with the Chicago Hoibles, baby. 3-0, 2 wins off potential playoff teams in the East. They've looked far more in sync than they did last year with their offseason additions. They're playing with a solid 5 core, and they've been playing pretty deep with their bench. So I like what they're doing in Chicago, and good luck to them keeping that up. So,
is your best the Bulls thus far, Murrell?
Yeah, I think the most surprising team has been the Bulls in a good sense, but for the lack of a better answer, I'll also say that the San Antonio Spurs have impressed as well. Yeah. Jumping off to a 4-0 start and beating the Warriors, I think, surprised a lot of people. So Greg Popovich with no Tim Duncan is still proving that he is one of the best coaches in the NBA to this day.
Now give me your most disappointing. We'll start with you, Michael.
I have 2 teams, but I'll go with the Mavericks so far. Yeah. I think you might be saying the Pelicans, but they've lost to the Spurs and Warriors, and Anthony Davis is still playing really well. While the Mavericks are really the only team that Rick Carlisle's still there, Dirk Nowitzki's still there, and they have 3 losses. They're 0-3, 2 to the Rockets in a row, and 1 to the Pacers. I mean, they're decent teams, but the Mavericks have just been the only team that weren't expected to be terrible that so far look terrible.
Yeah.
I will say so far no Nowitzki, so I'm still holding out on the Mavericks for right now, but I had an East team and the West team. For the East team, I went with the Pacers, 1-2 with a recent loss to a really dismal Brooklyn Nets team.
Yeah.
Season's still young, but I think they'll need a good homestand here in these next 3 games to not fall behind in a competitive East. And then the West, I went with the Pelicans, 0-3, showing no signs of really riding the ship. Anthony Davis has had injury issues in the past, and I think if the season keeps going how it is, he'll be out with a hurt back from carrying the Pelicans single-handedly.
Yeah.
So,
and granted, mine is probably, they've only played a couple games, but obviously that's the same case with everybody here. But I think a team that had a lot of hype going into this season really kind of dialed that down with their start. The Minnesota Timberwolves.
Yeah.
The T-Wolves losing to the Kings last night. Yikes. Okay. Let's move on. So we're doing some real early predictions of what we think is coming up this season here on this episode of KURE Sports on ISUtv. Starting off with the MVP. So far, who gets the MVP? We'll start with you, Logan.
I got to go with the easy pick here, the popular pick. How do you not go with Russell Westbrook here? The stat line over 3 games, 116 points, 37 rebounds, and 35 assists. Dude's averaging a triple-double. That's just ridiculous numbers. I think he's well on pace for an MVP season without Durant in Oklahoma City.
Yeah, I think that's one of the easy picks. There's another one out there just as things have started. Do you go with that other really easy pick?
I think there's 2 major contenders, and that's Russell Westbrook and Anthony Davis. Davis is averaging 37.7 points per game. Obviously, the Pelicans are not giving him any help, but he has been truly amazing thus far. Yeah. Kawhi Leonard has really shown that he is the #1 option on the Spurs. I think he's the guy to look for. And my other dark horse, still in the mix, is James Harden. 29.3 points per game and 10.7 assists per game. So the Rockets might not be good, but he is still good, and he'll be knocking on the door of Davis and Westbrook all year.
There's somebody you're forgetting.
Kyrie Irving?
Damian Lillard?
No, there's somebody
LeBron?
else. DeMar DeRozan. 30 points in every game he's played thus far.
Yeah, he's solid.
Out of control thus far on the scoring end. He's looking like Kobe Bryant out there. Mark my words, DeMar DeRozan may have his best season ever as a Raptor. He's off to the best start in Raptors history, surpassing names like Tracy McGrady, Vince Carter, and even Chris Bosh already this season. He's off to a great start. Had to get his name in.
Bulls have a better shot at the title than DeRozan at MVP. DeRozan at MVP.
That's probably accurate.
Yeah.
Probably accurate. All right, let's go to the best rookie thus far, who at this point in the season is going to win Rookie of the Year.
We're stealing each other's again, but I think that really the only one you can say at this point is Joel Embiid. He had 17 points in his first game.
Yeah.
4.5 rebounds isn't great, but I'm sure he'll improve in that department. 2 blocks is solid as well. But really, there's just been no rookies so far. I mean, Chris Dunn's getting minutes. Jamal Murray's looked bad. Ben Simmons is out. Buddy Hield's looked bad. Just so many guys that haven't produced yet, but it's 3 games into the season.
Yeah.
So some rookies will hopefully pan out.
Yeah, I'm kind of in the same boat. I think statistically you just have to go Embiid at this point. But I will say this much, like you were saying, Chris Dunn's going to get more minutes. Rubio just went out with, I think, a fractured elbow, I believe.
Yeah.
So he'll definitely get more minutes. And I'm going to see him just step up and kind of maybe get in the Rookie of the Year conversation.
Okay, let's move on to, we've talked a lot about good things here. Let's move to the bad things. What is, who's the worst undefeated?
Still some
it's
good
still
things.
some good, but they won't be good for long. So who's the worst undefeated team? thus far in the NBA. We'll start with you, Logan.
All right, I'll stick with the optimism here. Not necessarily a bad undefeated team in the bunch, but I'll say the undefeated team with the most to prove for me is the Oklahoma City Thunder. Westbrook has been playing out of his mind, don't get me wrong, but they've been squeaking by with these wins against the likes of the Lakers, the Suns, and the 76ers. So, I mean, a long season ahead with a tough Western Conference. They're going to have to play better than that, and other players are going to have to step up. Like the likes of Steven Adams and Oladipo can contribute a little bit more, but not a bad undefeated team, just need more to prove. So
I really want to say the Bulls here with Michael sitting to my right, but I'm not going to say the Bulls as of right now. I don't like the Clippers. I haven't in a long time, and I think they're for sure the worst undefeated team. They just, I mean, they continue to have the same system, and it continues not to work for them. It gets them to the playoffs, but not far into the playoffs by any means. I think this is the worst undefeated team because I truly think all the undefeated teams at this point are probably a playoff team, depending on how the Bulls go. But I don't know. Just to be different, I'm going to go Clippers here and maybe let Michael bag a little bit on his own Bulls.
No, I actually think the Clippers are pretty good. Obviously, in the playoffs, they do lose a decent amount, but I still think
they've looked better with Blake Griffin
They're still
back.
a great regular season team, and I am going to go with the Chicago Bulls. You know, I'm very optimistic. I hope that they have a great season, but being 3-0 right now, I've seen a lot of they're going to be the 2 seed right behind the Cavs, and a lot of close friends that I have from Chicago just are a little too optimistic about this team. I don't know if Michael Murrell is definitely too optimistic about this team. I don't know if Rondo can keep it up, and Wade is going to be maybe dealing with injuries. We know he's older, but the fact that Wade and Butler both are playing like alpha dogs does make me happy about this team, but let's scale it back a little bit and see how Hoiberg does with 82 games.
For sure. All right, let's move on to today. Let's look at it. The games that are on slate for right now, because it is so early in the season, we don't want to get too in-depth on predictions and whatnot. Give us your best game of tonight. Start with you, Logan.
All right, again, I got to go with the popular one. Golden State at Portland.
Yeah.
Big game for both of these teams, especially I think for the Warriors after just getting whomped by San Antonio in that opening game. I think this is a big statement game for them. But also for Portland, I think Damian Lillard, who took to Twitter before the season started, said he really wanted to make a case for an MVP season, and I think this is a big game for him to add to his resume, and I'm excited to watch it. So.
I agree.
Yeah, that game's going to be absolutely unbelievable. That will probably be the game of the night. A couple other ones are James Harden looks to continue his MVP-like season against the Cleveland Cavaliers. So that's got Irving, Harden, LeBron. So that's got star power. And then an interesting one. There's not a lot of other great teams playing against each other tonight, but is the Pelicans versus the Bucks. I mean, you get to see Anthony Davis, you get to see the Greek Freak, and hopefully the Bucks can maybe turn around. I mean, they're a solid
2 teams that
team.
need to turn around.
Yeah,
so.
2 teams that need to turn
right.
around. And you could see some highlights in that game. So that's one of the low-key games that could be good.
For sure. I like that. Definitely, obviously, the Golden State Portland is at the top of the list. If I were to go with an kind of an underground one to look at for just basketball fans in general, I could go with a team that needs to improve. That's the Pacers at home against the Lakers, who've been entertaining to watch with this new system. A lot of young guns under Luke Walton right now. That's a very entertaining team to watch. All right, let's go to some more general NBA topics here. I want your guys' thoughts on how long the NBA season is. Is it too long? Does it need to be shortened? Would you like it even longer? We'll start with you, Logan.
As a spectator, I have no problem with the 82 games. I think that's just about right for NBA. But I do feel like the length of the season puts a lot of wear and tear on the players, and we've seen, players younger and younger kind of retiring in all sports, for that matter, not just NBA. But maybe if they knocked it down to 72, I think that maybe would help a little bit with that problem. But I don't have a problem with 82. I think that's a pretty fair number.
Okay, Michael?
I don't really think there's anybody that would be against shortening it, but the problem with shortening it is that you have all this history of the game being 82
stats.
every single season, and it just changes the stats. It changes a little too much. One proposition I would like to see is, in the playoffs, the first round should not be best of 7. I mean, you've got 16 teams in the playoffs. Most people would say is already too much. It's way more than the MLB, way more than the NFL. Make that best of 5. Maybe even have your 12 through 16 have a play-in game, kind of like March Madness.
Or like
I think fans would really enjoy that. Coaches and players won't be too against it, and that's one way to kind of reduce games. But the regular season, I could see it, but it's just the history of the game. It's kind of weird to change it from that 82 number.
Yeah.
Okay. So you think the way to go is lessening the playoffs? I like that. All right. Before we get on to one of our fun questions here today, I want to talk a little bit about odds, and I want you guys to guess for me. They came out today with another odds for the championship. So I'm going to ask you guys, I'm going to give you guys a team, and you're going to guess the updated odds as of right now.
I like it.
Okay. So we'll start off with the Golden State Warriors. Logan, odds.
It's a long season. I'll say 5-1.
5-1.
Before the season, I know that they were above 50%. So right now, I'm going to go 2-1.
They're 4-5. Is their
4 to
odds.
Oh, so they're still.
Yeah, 4-5 right now.
They're still above 50.
They are. It's good. It's good. All right, so let's go Cleveland Cavaliers, defending champion. Let's go first.
I
I'll let you go on this
So
one.
with that being said, we know that they're above 50. Cavs, I'm going to go 3-1.
3-1.
Yeah.
I'll go
It might
2-1 on
might be
this
higher
one.
than that.
9-4.
9-4.
9-4 right now.
2.5 to 1.
Yeah, so kind of right in the middle.
Little math there.
Let's go out of the box here. I'm going to go towards the bottom of the list. Let's go Phoenix Suns.
Oh, man. I got to go like 600-1 at this point. They're terrible.
600-1.
I'll go 400.
Right in the middle, 500-1. 500-1. All right, let's do a couple more here. Sacramento Kings.
You said the Suns was 500?
Suns was 500.
400 to
400.
1.
I'll go 350.
300-1. Nobody's
Hey.
gotten one yet. Logan's getting
We're gonna
close
get
here. You guys got to get one before we stop this. Houston Rockets.
Oh, man. And this is odds as NBA champions, correct?
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. I'll go 25-1.
I'll go 40 to 1.
100-1 for the
Wow.
Houston Rockets. Chicago Bulls.
This is why we don't bet.
Yeah, I know.
This is
I
why we
am
don't
staying
bet.
out of
Chicago
Vegas, man.
Bulls.
This is,
The Rockets were 100 to 1.
Rockets were 100-1.
This is updated.
This is up there.
You should go first on the Bulls.
all right. I'll go 150-1, slightly.
Okay.
I think they're better than the Rockets.
Oh, I do, but
But you don't think the odds makers do.
no.
I will go 40. 40 to 1.
100-1 again. All right, and let's do. Somebody's got to get one. Let's do one last one. Let's do the Philadelphia 76ers.
Oh my gosh. I feel like I have a better chance of winning the lottery, but I'll go with 9,000-1. They're awful. I mean,
That's an
I'm
astronomical
going to actually
number.
try and get it. I feel like there's like a low ball that they just always set the lowest team at. I'll go 900 to 1.
1,000-1. 1,000 is
we
usually
should've
the
got
low
that.
ball
Yeah.
number that they usually go with. And real quick fire right here. What's before we send it to break? What's your favorite NBA player of all time, Logan?
man, I had a tough time with this one. Everyone's
Yeah,
got the
it's hard.
Air Jordans, the LeBrons. A couple players that I looked up to as a player when I was little were Reggie Miller and Allen Iverson, both scrappy guards, kind of small guys, but found ways to score and bring W's to their teams, which were mediocre teams. And I always try to implement that style when I played. So
Okay.
I basically just did 2 because I'm a Bulls fan. So my favorite Bulls player ever was Derrick Rose, just watching him growing up. And my favorite non-Bulls player was Kobe Bryant. Watching him growing up
Yeah.
was just amazing.
Yeah, if I had to choose, I would definitely go with Vince Carter.
Oh, yeah.
Because
Raptors.
Big Raptor. He drew me into the Raptors, and then Kobe Bryant, he drew me into the Lakers. So those are my two teams, two players for sure. All right, we're going to send this break. We'll be back with some NCAA football talk right after this on KURE Sports on ISUtv. Welcome back to KURE Sports on ISUtv. Logan Marada remains. We've got Hunter Smith hopping on here for some football talk. I'm Taylor Mankle here welcoming you back to the show. So, NCAA football is what we're talking here, fellas. We've got a bunch of stuff happening, including some major upsets over this last weekend. A couple of them coming in the Big 12. That's where we're going to start. Okie State over West Virginia. Give me one big takeaway from this game, Hunter.
I think it finally proved what we were all kind of expecting in the Big 12, that Baylor and West Virginia aren't undefeated quality teams. And I think that, it was just a matter of time before they found the opponent that was finally going to take them down.
Okay.
And I think that Oklahoma State, they've had a rough season thus far. I mean, they had a tough loss to Central Michigan, which probably shouldn't have happened.
Yeah.
And, it just wasn't the season they've been hoping for. But I think it was an Oklahoma State team that, you could see had the chance and the opportunity and definitely the capability to take down this West Virginia team.
Give me a takeaway from this Big 12 loss.
Mine's just that there's no clear-cut best team in the Big 12. There's a lot of parity this year. If I had to
Not
pick
the
a
good kind, either.
Oh yeah, no, not the good kind. But if I had to pick a best team, it would still probably be either between Oklahoma, West Virginia, or Baylor, just based on the rest of their seasons, how I think they can do. But yeah, this is not a great season for the Big 12 by any means. So
absolutely, totally agree. Let's go to the SEC quickly before we bounce back to the Big 12 with more parity. Let's talk South Carolina over Tennessee. Tennessee really just a team that's gotten away with so many upsets and upset again, or not necessarily upsets, but coming away with games late. South Carolina finally stuck it to them, and they were the ones who were able to pull this off. Talk about this game, Logan.
Yeah, I just have to go on the record and say I have this personal vendetta against Tennessee just for them always being one of those teams that's ranked every year, and then they always disappoint every year.
I've got the same thing with Georgia.
Yeah, so same feelings there with Tennessee. I've just been happy to see them lose these 3 games after probably should have lost 2 other games earlier this season.
Yeah.
So yeah, and then just to add on to that, I've heard through the grapevine on ESPN that Jalen Hurd may be leaving Tennessee after the season, and if it is a 4th straight loss against Tennessee Tech, then yeah, that's a for sure. But yeah, not good news for Tennessee, and great game for South Carolina, I guess though. But
for sure. Now I'm going to ask you about another big upset. Obviously, Wyoming over Boise State, who was undefeated going into this game. How about them Cowboys?
I think it was mostly Boise State was just talked up because of that undefeated record. I mean, look, it's tough to go undefeated any way you look at it in Division I football, but overall, they hadn't played anybody. There was nobody that they had played. There was not a single ranked opponent. There wasn't an opponent who, I don't know how many were looking to make a bowl game even, and they said, look out for Wyoming, look out for the Cowboys. They have the opportunity to take down Boise State, and they proved it. And this was a team that, they said, could Boise State make it? Could they run the table? And I think even if they would have, they wouldn't have made it. There wasn't a ranked opponent that they're going to face all season. So I think kudos to the Cowboys for finally taking them down and showing, their weakness. But overall, I wasn't too impressed by the Broncos.
Wild ending in that game, by the way. I don't know if you guys caught it, but that safety at the end, what a rough way to have your undefeated season come to a close.
That sucks, There's no other way to say that. Let's talk about the other Big 12 upset. Were you guys surprised that Texas took down Baylor this weekend?
I wasn't necessarily surprised. I haven't been overly impressed by Baylor by any means this season, and they've kind of been the villains of college football, and I've just been waiting for them to get taken down. This was a marquee win, I think, for Charlie Strong. He's kind of been on the hot seat, at least in Austin, and this was a big win. I think that at least solidified him for another year at Texas.
Strong always comes through to win one game that he's not supposed to every season. Last season it was Oklahoma. Exactly. And this season Baylor thus far. And this is a Baylor team, and the whole Big 12 in general this year is sad. It is a sad example of what a power conference is supposed to be. And am I surprised by this? No. I knew Baylor was going to go down eventually before the regular season was up. Was I kind of surprised that it was Texas? In a way, I was. In a way, Charlie Strong was due for a win. So this is a Texas team, especially after going down to Kansas State, that needed a win. And I think I was a little surprised that it was Baylor and that they were able to take them down. But, it's not a good season for the Big 12 overall.
Now let's talk about some of the better teams. Obviously, the top 4 teams are the 4 undefeated teams in Power 5 conferences here. And let me ask you guys this question. With the way the 4 is right now, order and those 4 teams being undefeated, is that how it's going to go down in the months to come? Will that be the Final 4 that we see going into the playoff? We'll start with you, Hunter.
I like the order, but as far as who's going to be there, I have 2 teams a lock right now, Alabama and Clemson. Okay. I think those 2 are going to make it. I don't think there's any doubt about it. And I know a lot of people make the case for Louisville, and I like Louisville too over Clemson, but like we said last week, they got the head-to-head,
yep.
And that is what's going to get Clemson into this playoff, is that head-to-head win that they had over Louisville. And then no one's going to stop Clemson either in the championship game or anything else coming in the regular season. And then Alabama is a rock that defeats anything that gets into its path. I mean, there's no stopping the Crimson Tide. They're going to roll. And then as far as the Big Ten, I look for either Ohio State or Michigan to get in. And I think it's going to come down to that final game at the shoe between Michigan and Ohio State that's going to determine which of those teams for the Big Ten is going to get in. And
got interesting with that loss to Penn State.
Yeah, exactly. And that's why I think that you give Michigan a bit more of a slight chance to get them over Ohio State.
They still have that head-to-head coming up. And then, on addition to that, the championship game.
Exactly.
Right? Who knows?
And then, as far as Washington goes, I think they can make it, but just look out for Washington State. I think their
Washington's
team
getting way better.
They are. And
Apple Cup, last game of the season. That's my favorite game of the year.
Oh, man.
What do you think, Logan?
I think all these teams control their own destiny as of right now.
For sure. Yeah.
I have no problem with, I think this could very well end this way. But I will say this much. Bama's destiny lies on them beating Auburn. That's the end of the season. Another interesting rivalry game. Interesting things have happened in past years in that game. Michigan, like you're saying, lies on beating Ohio State. Otherwise, they're in. Washington should be in. I think they just need to win that Pac-12 championship. Big win against Utah last week. And then Clemson, I think, also needs to win ACC championship. But something interesting with that ACC championship, it will likely be a rematch between North Carolina and them. And North Carolina actually had a good shot at making the playoffs last year. They won that game. I mean, they're not going to be a playoff contender, but definitely looking out for some revenge there. And that would be interesting. But if any teams sneak in, I do think it'll probably be Louisville or Ohio State.
Okay. All right, and last thing we've got on the show today, Logan brought this up.
Man.
This is fun. This is fun stuff here. It's make your own bowl game. Logan's rules are it can be realistic. Doesn't have to be. It can be a good matchup or something just ridiculous. So you made the game. We'll start off with you, Logan.
Oh, man.
Make your bowl.
I have a few on here because I couldn't decide. There's just so many. But this is one that I traditionally do when I make these up. The Power 5 Toilet Bowl is what I call it. The worst teams in the Power 5 conferences.
Great.
Rutgers versus Kansas. I want to see who's the worst.
It might be Iowa State. Who knows?
Yeah. I should be careful before I throw Kansas under the bus. But another one I have, just an entertaining game, maybe Air Raid Bowl between Texas Tech and Cal, two teams that just pass every play.
Great.
Maybe they just won't allow runs in that game. I don't know. And then another fun one, I call it the Don't Be a Disappointment Bowl. And I put Notre Dame and Oregon in because they've just been huge disappointments. And they don't want to let their fan bases down. That's their chance to prove it. So.
Okay. All right. Do you have a bowl made up?
I went a bit more the fake route, and everybody's always said worst NFL team and best college team. Granted, NFL, I mean, every one of those guys is professional. In college, I mean, you have a lot less likely of a chance of going professional. But I've just always wanted to see Alabama. I think they could put a pretty good smackdown on the Browns.
Yeah, that's good.
I think it would be a good game.
I think it would be a good game. I think maybe the Browns would come out on top, and that's scary that I say maybe. But I think I got to give it to them. And then I made one that's real. Coincidentally enough, I also named it the Toilet Bowl. And I want to see Mizzou and Iowa State play again.
Oh, that would be fun.
For
the telephone trophy.
Yeah.
I want that thing to get out of Missouri and back to here because I think this is a season. Iowa State's bad. Missouri's horrible. And I mean, one of the biggest reasons they left the Big 12 is because they were looking for better competition. And boy, they found it. And now they're horrible. But I would love to see those two teams play and see if we can get the telephone trophy back to Ames.
Well, we actually, all three of us have a toilet bowl. My idea was slightly different. It's very similar to yours, Logan, putting the two worst teams from Power 5 schools. I actually made it a little different, a little twist on it. You get all those teams, the bottom dwellers of all the Power 5 schools, and they combine forces, and you basically team up with another team, share your rosters, put the best guys out there, see who's victorious, because in the toilet bowl, nobody wins. And then you got to sponsor it by like, I don't know.
Charmin.
Charmin Ultra Strong for the toilet bowl. All right, perfect, guys. Logan, it's your first time on, so who's winning the national championship?
Oh man, that's tough. You know what? I would normally say Bama here, but I'm gonna go with Michigan. I'm gonna go with the Wolverines. Yeah, I'm gonna go Harbaugh. It's his time.
Hot take.
Hot take indeed. I think they're a legit team though. They've got athletes. They've got real caliber players now, and Michigan's back to the old Michigan they used to be, I think.
That's too hot for me. Has your opinion changed over the weeks, Hunter?
As much as it pains me to say it, Roll Tide. This is the SEC, and it hurts me to say it because I am not an Alabama fan by any stretch of the imagination. As much as I'd love to see Washington just come in and ruin everything for Alabama. But, this is an Alabama team that's going to come in. Michigan's had big wins, and they've won by huge, huge margins. But, they're not going to stop them. Washington's not going to stop them, and more than likely Clemson isn't going to stop them. Clemson almost couldn't stop Louisville, and I think Louisville would get rolled by Bama. So look out, Alabama on their way to another title.
Well said, and that's all we have time for here on this episode of KURE Sports on ISUtv. For Logan Marada, Hunter Smith, Michael Murrell, Michael Mainzer, and Zach Williamson, and our fantastic crew here at ISUtv and KURE Sports, I'm Taylor Mankle. Until next week.